So I'm so excited to be sharing today, and to all our youth and friends joining us online. You know what? We really miss you, and we wish you can be with us in person. And to everyone here, I hope you're excited and ready for the rest of the gathering. So why not turn to the people around you, smile or greet them if you haven't, and make sure they are comfortable sitting next to you. Okay, so if you don't know me yet, my name is Edwin, and I'm one of the youth leaders here at The Evolution. So I'm currently serving on the worship team and the PR team overlooking the youth social media. So I want to begin with 5 interesting facts about me. Okay, so number 1, I'm the youngest of 3 siblings. I'm me rocking the high socks there. Number 2, I love cakes. Okay, so one of the most interesting cake flavor I've tried and like is actually the nasi lemak cheesecake. Okay, some of you are like, no, maybe not for me. Okay, the third one is that I am also a rain detector. Okay, I can predict when the rain is gonna come. Because right, whenever it's about the rain, right, my energy level will just drop drastically. Okay, number 4, I have a habit of naming my stuff, particularly my instruments. So my bass guitar, I call it Jazz. Okay, my ukulele, I call it Cracky because there's a crack on it. My acoustic guitar is called Timothy. But I have yet to name my bicycle, so if you have any suggestions, I'm open. Okay, and lastly is I love jokes, okay, especially puns. So today, I have prepared one for you. I hope it's fun enough. So it goes like this. Why was the pun a bad comedian? He never got the punchline right. Okay, so you know what? If you have a better one, right, I would love to connect with you after gathering. Okay, so that's enough of me. Are you ready for today's message? Yes. So the title of my message today is Gratitude. And I want to speak about how we can live our lives fully through gratitude. So I'll start off with a story. Okay, here goes. One day, a teacher entered the classroom and asked his students to prepare for a surprise test. The students waited anxiously at their desk for the test to begin. The teacher handed out the question paper with the text facing down. Once he handed them all out, he asked his students to turn the page and begin. But to everyone's surprise, there were no questions, just a black dot somewhere in the center of the page. So the teacher, seeing the expression on everyone's face, and told them the following: I want you to write about what you see there. The students were still confused, but they got started on with the task. At the end of the class, the teacher collected the papers and started reading each one of them aloud in front of all the other students. Yeah. All of them, without exception, described the black dot, trying to explain its position around the paper. And after all had been read, the classroom went silent, and the teacher finally explained, I am not going to grade you for this. I just want to give you something to think about. No one wrote about the white part of the paper. Everyone focused on the black dot, and the same thing happens in our life. Our life is a special gift of God, and we always have reasons to celebrate. And yet we focus on the dark spots in our life. We tend to focus on health issues, financial issues, relationship issues, disappointments even in our social lives. So the teacher continued, the dark spots are very small compared to everything we have in our lives. But they are the ones that spoil our minds. Look away from the black spots in your life. Enjoy each one of your blessings, each moment that life gives you. We all have so many things in life to be grateful for. Be grateful and enjoy each moment of your life. Be happy and enjoy life. So how many of you can relate to the story? So we often find ourselves in the same situation where we lose focus on what we have, and we live our lives filled with stress, anxiety, and negativity. And this only worsens with COVID. So since last year, all of you who are studying, right, had to deal with the change in school schedule. Many of you also struggled to focus on your studies, and you felt stressed in trying to keep up after you were allowed back to school. And for the adults, some of us are struggling in our finances and even in our job security. So in times like this, is it even possible not to focus on the dark spots in our lives during confusion and uncertainty? How can we recognize such goodness in our times? So today I'm going to be focusing on one passage in the Bible. So it's Luke 17, verses 11 to 19 in the Message version. So it says, it happened that as he, this is referring to Jesus, made his way towards Jerusalem, he crossed over the border between Samaria and Galilee. As he entered a village, 10 men, all lepers, met him. They kept their distance, but raised their voices, calling out, "Jesus, Master, have mercy on us." Taking a good look at them, he said, "Go, show yourself to the priest." They went, and while still on their way, became clean. One of them, when he realized that he was healed, turned around and came back, shouting his gratitude, glorifying God. He knelt at Jesus' feet, so grateful, he couldn't thank him enough, and he was a Samaritan. Jesus said, "Were not 10 healed? Where are the 9? Can none be found to come back and give glory to God except this outsider?" Then he said to him, "Get up, on your way, your faith has healed and saved you." So there are quite a lot of things happening in this passage, but we're going to break it up and see what the Bible has to show us. So my first point about gratitude is gratitude begins with vulnerability. So in verse 11 to 13, it happened that as he made his way towards Jerusalem, he crossed over the border between Samaria and Galilee. As he entered a village, 10 men, all lepers, met him. They kept their distance, but raised their voice, calling out, "Jesus, Master, have mercy on us." So back then, people are called lepers when they have a serious medical condition called leprosy. Leprosy was an incurable skin disease that was also contagious. So if anyone was found to have leprosy, the person would immediately be excluded from their community. They are sent to live outside the city in leper colonies for the fear that they will infect everyone else. They were also labeled unclean. Some people even believed leprosy was a punishment from God. And worst of all, many communities would make lepers call themselves unclean. Whenever they saw other people nearby, lepers had to shout about themselves, "Unclean, unclean," to warn others to stay away from them. So not only was leprosy a disease that takes away your future, leprosy was a disease that gets you ostracized for life. So this is why the first thing that stood out to me in the passage was that these 10 men, despite living with all this rejection, and maybe they had gotten used to being isolated, being alone, being depressed, it amazes me that instead of giving up, they decide to be vulnerable, to acknowledge the fact that they needed help, to hope that perhaps Jesus could save them from an impossible situation. Remember, up to this point in human history, nobody has ever been cured from leprosy. There was no vaccine, no medical intervention available. So once you were diagnosed, it was always a life sentence. But they decided to hope. You know, hope, especially in the form of asking for help, can be a very vulnerable act. To tell someone we are struggling but we want to be strong. To tell a friend we are lonely and we need companion. To tell a friend we are not being ourselves or living with integrity because we are trying to fit into what's popular. To tell someone we are wrong about something and to ask for help getting it right. To tell someone, well, you are jobless, figuring out who you want to be and what you want to do, to say, "I'm feeling lost and I need support and advice." I'd imagine it was not easy for these 10 lepers. They had to overcome the fear of being disappointed. What if Jesus couldn't heal them? What if Jesus refused to help them? And imagine the rejection they would face by trying. Would the community reject them some more? Laugh at them if their attempt failed? Or maybe for some of the 10 lepers, instead of feeling hopeless, maybe they felt anger. Life is unfair. This situation I'm in is unfair. I didn't do anything to deserve leprosy. It's Jesus who should come to me and heal me, not me going to God for help. This community has rejected me, then I'm going to reject them too. That part may be true. Maybe there have been some people in our lives that have let us down. There may be some situations in our lives that are random and unfair. But at the end of the day, what do we want more? To be restored to life and relationship, or to live with whatever broken situations we are in? So perhaps this 10 lepers coming to God for help was not as easy as we think. Perhaps these 10 lepers had chose to be vulnerable, to choose to accept the situation they were in, to acknowledge the fact that they needed help regardless of what others might think. For some of us here, we've got to learn to be vulnerable first before we will ever be able to experience healing or gratitude. To be vulnerable means we've got to acknowledge and accept the imperfect parts of us. Yes, sometimes life and situations and people suck. But there's also life and situations and relationships that don't. And we need to recognize that we cannot be who we are or what we want on our own. There'll be many moments where we are going to need help and contributions of others to get to where we want to be. So we've got to learn to be vulnerable, to learn to open up to one another, to God, to your leaders, to your close friends who you can rely on, to ask for help when you need it. This might be healing, it might be advice, or even advice that is hard to hear. So being vulnerable to people whom you can trust opens the door to our healing. So let's get back to the Bible and see where the 10 lepers story goes. So verse 14, it says, taking a good look at them, he said, "Go, show yourselves to the priest." Imagine with me for a moment, if you are one of the lepers, you decided to be vulnerable and go to find Jesus. And just when you found Jesus who can heal you, instead, Jesus redirects you and asks you to go and show yourself to the priest. Already you have trouble with the normal people in the community, and now you have to weave through the village to find a priest. And you already took a huge step of faith by coming to ask for help. Isn't my act of finding you, Jesus, enough? Plus, this is unfair. We've heard of many stories of other people getting instant healings. Yeah, and this is unfair. Why is it so hard for me? I want to point out that being vulnerable is never comfortable. It puts you in a place where you feel fragile. And that's the point when we need to grow stronger, to learn to have hope, to have faith, to trust God, to have a softer, more open heart to our leaders and our friends to allow them to help us. And I just want to speak to the guys here today. No, you can be vulnerable too. It does not make you any less or whatever others say about you that you are being too soft, that you need to man up or suck it up. You know what? Learn to put your ego or your fears aside. Open up your hearts and receive help when needed. Open up your heart and attitude to receive advice when it's given. Because often when we are asking for our instant solutions, God and the people around us are trying to create long-term transformations in our lives. And the question we want to ask is, which do we want? A temporary healing or a permanent one? A superficial change in our situation or a long-term transformation in our lives? So say it with me, gratitude begins with vulnerability. And point number 2, gratitude is pausing to be grateful and saying thank you. So verse 14 to 16, it says, taking a good look at them, he said, "Go show yourself to the priest." They went and while still on their way, became clean. One of them, when he realized that he was healed, turned around and came back, shouting his gratitude, glorifying God. He knelt at Jesus' feet, so grateful, he couldn't thank him enough, and he was a Samaritan. So the keyword I want to highlight here is realized. So all 10 men were healed, and they were probably celebrating it. But only one of them had gratitude overflowing in his heart, and he was grateful towards Jesus. Only one of them realized in that instance that there was something more important than celebrating. He needed to be thankful for who and what had gotten him there. So I have noticed that when human beings experience breakthroughs, we tend to only credit ourselves. We pat ourselves on the back more than acknowledging that a large part of our breakthrough are never just us. It could be a moment of opportunity that could have easily gone to someone else. And most of the time, God or someone else helped us get there. And I have noticed the more privileged we are, the more we tend to praise ourselves without thanking others. I think that's why the Jewish men didn't go back to thank Jesus, only the Samaritan did. I think the Jewish guys just assumed they deserved it. But the Samaritan man, probably because he understood all his life what it meant to not have privileges, to have been kept low or limited by people in power. He realized that healing could have easily gone to any other leper. But he was so grateful that they were lucky enough to be the ones to find Jesus and received healing. So everyone celebrated, but he paused to be grateful. So I wonder how often we go on with our lives without pausing to be grateful, without stopping to turn around and say thank you to the people who help us get there. Friends, I want to encourage you today to take a moment to pause and recognize the things and especially the people you are grateful for. So being at the Evolution, I must say we have the best people here, and there are so many people to be grateful for, right? So why not turn to the friend sitting beside you and say, I'm grateful to be sitting beside you. You know, expressing gratitude is something easier said than done. If we do not actively take time to pause and reflect, to actively give thanks to people around us, we got to make it into habits. So some ways we can develop gratitude in our lives are, number one, start noticing things which we can be grateful. It could be tangible things like your parents making breakfast for you, your friends or leaders who wrote you an encouraging note. Or they could be intangible, like someone taking time out to spend time with you, or a compliment from someone because of your actions. Number two, think about why we have been given those things. You know, it's easy to receive gifts on your birthday, but because there's a reason to celebrate. But it's harder if we receive gifts out of the blue. Then we got to pause and think, did the person give out of encouragement, out of love? Number three, how do we feel about the things we have been given? Do you feel happier? Do we feel less anxious? Do we feel loved? How can we intentionally change our response to be grateful instead of emo or ungrateful? Number four, what can we do to express appreciation in return? It could be as simple as dropping a text to the person to thank them for being present in your life. Or going out to your friends who are serving at the gathering, look them into their eyes and say, thank you. Little effort like this makes a lot of difference to the person we are thanking and also to ourselves. And if you could also go a little further by loving in the way which they receive it best, even better. So if you know your friends feel loved by words of affirmation, you know what? Write them an encouraging note. If you know your friends feel loved by the act of service, go the extra mile to do something for them. Or we might even feel inspired to pay it forward, giving to others that they can have the positive experience of receiving. The youth here, I want to encourage you to start making these small habits today, to be thankful towards your leaders who have invested in you in both the big and the small ways. To be thankful towards your friends around you who were there for you both in the high and low moments of your life. But just so I can convince you, I have a video for you on how gratitude actually makes you a happier person. So if you're ready, let's roll the video in 3, 2, 1.
Shut up.
What? Wait.
Oh, he's gonna be so embarrassed.
What makes you happy? Having fun? Hanging out with friends? Delicious food? Making money? Well, consider this. Psychologists have scientifically proven that one of the greatest contributing factors to overall happiness in your life is how much gratitude you show. Yeah? Think about that. Go ahead and marinate on it for a second. You can thank me later if you want. It'll make you feel better according to this study. You go ahead and click on it and read it if you want. Or you can keep watching because we read it and we thought it might be fun to test out for ourselves. We gathered a selection of volunteers to act as our subjects. First, we gave them a test. They didn't know what we were looking for, but it gave us a pretty good idea of their current level of happiness. We asked them to close their eyes and think of somebody who was really influential in their life, somebody who did something really amazing or important for them. We had them write down as much as they could about why this person was so important. Now, a lot of them thought at this point the experiment was over, until we really put them on the spot and tried to get them to call that person and read what they wrote about them. Thank you, Jessica. We're gonna have you call your mother. So who was that right person for you?
Person is my sister, Erica.
We're gonna give Erica a call.
Okay.
Who'd you end up picking?
Friend of mine, Craig Ains.
Her name is Dora.
My college accounting instructor.
Really? Is this somebody you're still in touch with today?
No, I'm assuming that he's passed on.
That's a
To
shame.
the great beyond.
You up for it?
Yes.
What would you say if we called up Dora?
Oh, well, we can try, but she lives in Britain.
In Britain?
I don't know a number by heart, dude. This is awful.
That's fine. I don't know my mom's number by heart.
If it's true that those who are going on are looking down on us, maybe he read my chicken scratch.
Hey, sweetheart.
Hey, how you doing?
Yes.
You got a second? Where you at, in the hotel?
I am. I'm in the hotel. You scared me when you asked if I had a second if something's wrong.
No, I'm on like this little TV show, and they told me to talk about the person that influenced me the most, and I picked you, and they're making me call. They're making me call you.
Oh, wonderful!
Hi, you've reached Craig. I'm not here right now.
At the tone, please record your message.
Oh, come on.
Hello?
Hi,
Hi.
Erica. It's me.
All right, so I got to read you this paragraph. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Go ahead,
All right.
sweetheart.
All right. The person that influenced me the most would be my mother, Marlo Dawson. She is a single mother of 2. She is a very hard worker and dedicated to her family.
Hey, Craig. This is Loie. This is going to be a funny little voicemail, so I hope you enjoy it.
I'm so sorry for calling you at 4 o'clock in the morning.
I have to read this to you, okay? And you can't say anything, or I don't know. You can respond, but I probably will just keep going. Okay?
Is everything okay?
Yes, but I have to read this out loud to you.
The person who has had the biggest impact on my life outside of Jesus Christ, who is responsible for my existence, was my college accounting instructor. He had a joy and enthusiasm for his job like no other teacher I have ever known.
I love her to death, and she keeps me going with positive talk. She is a woman that knows what she wants and won't give up until it is achieved.
Oh, something. I don't know what. I'm about to cry because that's so beautiful. I have to say that's just wonderful.
I first met Craig on an independent feature film set in Whitefish, Montana. I recently have been sending Craig a lot of positive thoughts as he suffered a series of health problems. Despite his medical problems, he's continued to work and take pleasure in the small things in life, like sitting quietly with his wife Janine on the porch. Erica is my older sister and my best friend. Sometimes it even feels like we are twins. She's my #1 fan and my #1 supporter. She makes me happy because despite all my mistakes and my decisions, she still loves me no matter what.
Your friendship is everything. And you are one of the most important person in my life.
Even when she has a kid and many children, I will love her more than her kids. Okay, maybe not. I will never forget when she flew 3,000 miles at the drop of a phone call to save me from a breakup.
I'm being blessed by having a son like you. I love you.
Bye.
Why did you do that to me?
I don't know because they made me do it.
Thank you for picking up. Bye, sweetie.
And then they're like, here, you're gonna write this letter. And then I wrote like this whole long ass letter, which, I like don't write. And then all of a sudden they're like, hey, guess what? Now we're gonna call her and you're gonna read her this letter. And I was like, what the
Before we let them go, we gave our subjects one more happiness test. Now, we mixed up and rephrased the questions so they didn't know they were taking the same test twice. For those who took the time to actually write something down but couldn't make the phone call for whatever reason, we saw happiness increase between 2 and 4%. Good, but not exactly mind-blowing. Now, for those who actually picked up the phone and personally expressed their gratitude, we saw increases between 4 and 19%. So either way, expressing your gratitude will make you a happier person. But you want to know something really interesting? The person who experienced the biggest jump in happiness was the least happy person who walked in the door. What does that mean? That means if you're having a particularly tough time, trying this out will more likely have a greater impact on you.
Wow, wasn't that amazing how transformative gratitude can be? So another perk about gratitude is that you will become a happier person. So don't just be grateful in your heart, express your gratitude to the people who have loved you and helped you. So I'm sure the 10 lepers all felt thankful to Jesus, but only one turned around, came back, and expressed it. And I'm sure you can tell from the Bible that he was happier from it. He was more transformed by it. You see, guys, thank you opens the door for God to work in our lives. Let me repeat. Saying thank you opens the door for God to work in our lives. So in verse 19, it says, "Then he said to him, 'Get up on your way, your faith has healed and saved you.' All 10 lepers were healed, but only this man was saved. The nine others must be happy that they are freed from the sickness, but nothing else has changed. Their hearts might remain vulnerable and empty. They might still be carrying the hurt and pain from their past rejections. But this one man who came back to thank Jesus had more. His empty heart was made whole. His gratitude and faithfulness allowed God's wholeness to settle in his life, filling up the void in his heart." So in Philippians 4, verses 6 to 7, it says, "Let petitions and praises shape your worries into prayers, letting God know your concerns. Before you know it, a sense of God's wholeness, everything coming together for good, will come and settle you down. It's wonderful what happens when Christ displaces worry at the center of your life." So when we come to God, we're not supposed to only come to get answered prayers, the job we want, the help we want, the healing we want. We are supposed to be saved, to become whole, to feel like something inside becomes more permanently settled, to find peace and confidence. So if you're a Christian and that's all Jesus is to you, a healing, an answered prayer, help with school, help with your career, help with your relationship, start wanting more. And if you're a new friend joining us today and you want to have a relationship with God to experience this wholeness that we have been talking about, the good news is that you can. God can meet you where you are right now. As long as you come with an open, grateful heart, you can experience it. Say it with me, gratitude is pausing to be grateful and saying thank you. Thank you opens the door for God to work in our lives. But finally, gratitude is more than just feeling happy. Gratitude moves us to love. Truly gratitude people, our gratitude always moves us to love. It motivates us to share and increase the very good we have received. We want to pay it forward. We want to reciprocate love, not just to the person who helped us, but give that same help to others as well. There's a beautiful quote by Elizabeth Butler. It says, "I have a desire to do something in return. To do thanks, to give things, give thoughts, give love." So gratitude becomes the gift, creating a cycle of giving and receiving, the endless waterfall. Filling up and spilling over, perhaps not even to the giver, but to someone else, to whoever crosses one's path. It is the simple passing on of the gift. You know, the effects of gratitude aren't supposed to be beneficial only between two people. It is not exclusive. That one little act of gratitude that you do today sows a seed in that person, and hopefully it passes on to the next person, to the next friend, to someone who needs to hear it. And by doing so, we actually create a culture that celebrates this goodness in the spaces that we are in. Even at the evolution, imagine a space where every single person is appreciative and thankful towards one another. Thanking God for what He has done in your life. Thanking your leaders for the things they have spoken in your life. Thanking your friends who are here serving and growing up together. In the moments when you celebrate one another for their success, but also in the moments when you were there for one another when you needed each other the most. This kind of culture and atmosphere of gratefulness amplifies God's presence and goodness in all our lives. And the powerful thing is that for our friends who are new to the evolution, can immediately feel the love and peace in the community. And that opens up their heart to make more meaningful relationships or even knowing God personally. By doing this, we find that life becomes a little bit more meaningful. Through gratitude, we gain a new purpose to touch someone's life. So I want to share with you an amazing youth in our church is Cerise. So Cerise shared with me that the person she is grateful for is her leader, Selena. So she was grateful towards Selena for always giving her best to love people, always looking out for them and remembering the small things that matters. As such, Cerise would often receive random pictures and videos of things that she likes from her, and that made her happy. And there was an instance when Selena noticed Cerise felt stressed about school and bought her a fidget toy so that she can find a better way to distress. And Cerise's gratitude towards her leader led her to do the same for friends. There was once when Cerise noticed her friend became very quiet and not her usual self. Cerise decided to approach her and ask if she was doing okay, which she found out that her friend was stressed out by school and things going on at home. Cerise wanted to love her friend, so she wrote a letter and gave her some sweets to encourage her the next day. And this is one of many things that Cerise often does for her friend. And because of her love for them, a lot of her friends have actually stepped into the evolution and enjoyed our gatherings. Well, are you inspired by how gratitude moved Cerise to love others powerfully? Come on, let's cheer for Cerise. So having gratitude for how someone has loved us, it moves us to do the same for others. The only time the ripple effect of love stops is when love reaches an ungrateful heart. Think about that. The only reason the impact of love stops radiating outwards in this world is when love gets stopped by an ungrateful heart. Hearts that don't pause to be grateful. People that don't stop to say thank you. Gratitude is something we've got to cultivate in us. It's an action, a habit we have to practice in our relationships. And when we do that, not only does it benefit us, it starts to pay it forward in other lives. I want to end off with a quote by Eric Mosley in his book, Making Work Human. People want purpose, meaning, and gratitude. Purpose is shared, meaning is personal, and gratitude is the great connector. Isn't that amazing? That gratitude connects our meaning in life to a greater purpose that is shared between us and the community. So here's the recap. Number 1, gratitude begins with vulnerability. Number 2, gratitude is pausing to be grateful and saying thank you. Thank you opens the door for God to work in our lives. And lastly, gratitude moves us to love.